Hello students, welcome to the fourth and the last part of our second chapter of economics, sectors of the Indian economy. In this part of this chapter, we'll be classifying the sectors on the basis of ownership and working conditions. On the basis of working conditions, we divide the sector as organized and unorganized. The questions like what are their conditions of work in which people are employed, and are there any rules and regulations that are followed as regards their employment? So let's start this with an example. First, Kanta. Kanta works in an office. She attends her office from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. She gets her regular salary and she also gets provident funds as per the rules laid down by the government. She also gets medical and other allowances, and Kanta does not go to office on Sundays, and this is a paid holiday for her. When she joined work, she was given an appointment letter stating all the terms and conditions of work. Now let's look at another man, Kamal. Kamal is also Kanta's labor, but he is a daily wage worker in a nearby grocery shop. He goes to work at 7:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. He gets no other allowances apart from his wages. He is not paid for the days he does not work, and he has therefore no leave or paid holidays. And nor was he given any formal letter saying that he has been employed in the shop. He can be asked to leave any time by his employer. So you can compare the working conditions of Kanta and Kamal. They are exactly opposite to each other. So do you see the difference in the conditions of work between Kanta and Kamal? So in this way, we say that Kanta is employed in organized sector and Kamal is working in unorganized sector. So let's see what this organized and unorganized sectors are. Organized sector covers all those enterprises or places of work where the terms of employment are regular and therefore people have assured work. They are registered by the government and have to follow its rules and regulations, which are given in various laws like Factories Act, Minimum Wages Act, Payment of Gratuity Act, Shops and Establishment Act, etc. And why it is called organized? It is called organized because it has some formal process and procedures. And some of these people may not be employed by anyone, but may work on their own. But they too have to register themselves with the government and follow the rules and regulations. And the workers in this sector enjoy the security of employment. Their jobs are secure. They are expected to work only a fixed number of hours, and if at all they are working more, they have to be paid overtime by the employer, and they also get several other benefits from the employers. And what are these benefits that they get from employers? They get paid leaves, payment, that is payment during holidays. They get provident fund, gratuity leaves, etc. And they are supposed to get medical benefits under the laws. The factory manager has to ensure facilities like drinking water and safe working environment. And even when they retire, these workers get pensions as well. So these were the characteristics of organized sector. Now let's have a look at unorganized sector, where Kamal was employed. In contrast, Kamal works in the unorganized sector and Kanta was working in organized sector. So the unorganized sector is characterized by small and scattered units which are largely outside the control of government. These jobs under unorganized sector are not under the control of government. There are rules and regulations in this sector too, but these are not followed. And jobs here are low paid and often not regular. Like we saw that Kamal can be asked to leave the job anytime. So his job is not assured and his job is not even regular. And there is no provision for overtime, paid leave, holidays, leave due to sickness, and people can be asked to leave without any reason. So when there is less work, such as during some seasons, some people may be asked to leave. If they are not having any job, the employers can ask them to leave. and a lot also depends on the whims of the employer. So this sector, unorganized sector, includes a large number of people who are employed on their own doing small jobs such as selling on the street or doing repair work. So these people fall under unorganized sector. They depend on daily wages and no formal procedure is done. Like we saw that in organized sector, Kanta was given a document which read about her working conditions and the terms of her work. But Kamal was not given any such document. And there was no provision for overtime, paid leaves, sickness leaves, etc. So this is our organized and unorganized sector. Now let's see a few questions on this organized and unorganized sector. You can be asked that in what ways workers in organized sectors are treated differently than that of unorganized sector. So you simply have to differentiate between organized and unorganized sector, and you can directly label any 5 or 3 points depending on the marks it is being asked, and you can label any 3 or 5 points from this table. The second point is also same. Differentiate between organized and unorganized sector. You can directly label all the 5 points from this table. Now the organized sector offers jobs that are most sought after. Everyone wants to get a job in the organized sector. But the employment opportunities in that sector have been expanding very slowly. So most of the people go towards unorganized sector. And it is also common to find that many organized sector enterprises the unorganized sector. So large number of workers are forced to enter unorganized sector jobs which pay a very low salary. So we need, and the workers working under unorganized sector are largely exploited and not even paid a fair wage. Their earnings are quite low and not even regular. So these jobs are not secure and they don't even have any benefit. So we need to protect the workers of unorganized sector. Their jobs aren't secure and they have no other benefits. So there is a need for protection and support of the workers in the unorganized sector. Now the question arises that who are these vulnerable people who need protection? Not everyone working under unorganized sector needs protection. Even big, large private enterprises are falling under unorganized, but not protect them. So who are these vulnerable people who need protection? They are different in rural areas, and in urban areas there are different people. So let's have a look at the people of rural areas. In rural areas, our unorganized sector mainly comprises of landless laborers, small marginal farmers, sharecroppers and artisans. These people are falling under unorganized sector in rural areas. And how can they be supported or can be protected? They can be supported through adequate facility for timely delivery of seeds, agricultural inputs, credit and storage facilities. So this was for rural areas. Now let's have a look at urban areas. In urban areas, this sector mainly comprises of workers in small scale industries. These are the people which are mostly exploited in the urban areas. Casual workers in construction, street vendors, headload workers, etc. They all fall under unorganized sector of urban areas. So they need government support for procuring raw material and marketing for output, and the casual workers in both rural and urban areas need to be protected. So these are the vulnerable people which are needed to be protected by the government. Now you'll notice that majority of workers from scheduled caste, tribes and backward communities find themselves in the unorganized sector. This is the most common observance, that majority of workers that are in unorganized sector comprise of the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and backward communities. And getting irregular and low paid work, these workers also face discrimination. So the protection and support to the unorganized sector workers is necessary for economic and social development. So the people falling under scheduled caste, tribes and backward communities are also vulnerable for protection by government. So that was our classification on the basis of working conditions. Now let's have a look towards sectors in terms of ownership. On the basis of ownership, we classified the sectors as public and private. Now let's understand this. So this is another way of classifying economic activities into sectors on the basis of who owns the assets and is responsible for the delivery of services. Ownership means who is responsible for the assets and who owns those assets. So we classify it as public and private. In the public sector, the government owns most of these assets and provides all the services. But in the private sectors, individuals or companies own the assets. The assets owned by government fall under public sectors, and the assets owned by individuals or companies fall under private sector. And the main motive of public sector is to provide affordable and accessible services for all. And the main motive of private sector is to earn profit. Welfare and to provide affordable and accessible service for all. We read in the previous chapter of development that generally it is the responsibility of government to provide healthcare facilities and education facilities to all the citizens of the country. So the main motive, anyhow, the main motive of the public sector or the government is going to be to provide affordable and accessible service for all. That would improve the human development index of our country. So let's have a look at the examples of public and private sectors. The example of public sectors are Indian Railways, Post Offices, Steel Authority of India Limited, ONGC, Oil and Natural Gas Commission, Gas Authority of India Limited. So all these institutions are falling under public sector. An example of private sectors are TISCO, Tata Iron and Steel Company, Reliance Industries Limited, Bajaj Auto, Maruti Udyog Limited, and HDFC Bank. Now let's have a look at the questions that can be asked on the basis of private and public sector. In the first question, you have to find the odd one out and write why. You can see we have listed a few institutions. First one is MTNL, then you have Indian Railways, then you have Air India, Sahara Airline, and All India Radio. In among these, all are falling under public sector, but one is of private sector. So you have to identify which one of them belongs to private sector, and that would be your odd one out. And the reason can be that your answer is going to be from private sector and all other fall under public sector. Next question, which one of the following is a private sector industry? This is BHEL, TISCO, Oil Industries Limited. Then you have Steel Authority of India Limited. So here you have TISCO, which belongs to private sector. We read this in the previous slide. TISCO belongs to private sector. Next question. The sectors are classified into public and private sectors on the basis of employment conditions. We classified it as organized and unorganized sector. On the nature of economic activities, we classified it as primary, secondary, and tertiary sector. So this cannot be my answer. Ownership of enterprises. On the basis of ownership of enterprises, we classified it as public and private. So this is going to be your right answer. Ownership of enterprises. So some activities need large sums of money, which is beyond the capacity of private sector. These activities are undertaken by public sector. Like you have construction of roads, you have construction of bridges, railways, harbors, generating electricity, etc. So government have to undertake such activities which include heavy spending and ensure that these facilities are available to everyone. Now why these activities are undertaken by public sector? Because they need spending large sums of money which is beyond the capacity of the private sector. And collecting money from thousands of people who use the facilities by private sector is not very easy. And even if the private sector provides these things, they would charge a high rate for their use, because we read that the main motive of private sector is to earn profit. So construction of roads, bridges, railways, all these things are undertaken by government. And with heavy spending, they also ensure that the facilities are available to everyone. So there are some activities which the government has to support. It is the responsibility of government. So to provide other things also to the public, for the welfare of public, the government operates the FCI, Food Corporation of India. About this we read in ninth standard in the chapter Food Security in India. So government operates the FCI, that is for the welfare of people, and the primary responsibilities of government also include providing health and educational facilities for all. So all these activities are undertaken by government because government has to provide health and education facilities, and running proper schools and providing quality education, particularly elementary education, is the duty of the government. So this was our chapter, sectors of the Indian economy. Thank you.